All right, we're live. Almost live. It says going live. All right, we're live.
Matt, that's the thing.
Welcome, Matt. How the hell are you?
Snap. I'm good. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. Sir.
I always call you sir.
I know. It's because you're a fucking Marine.
It's that military thing I can't get rid of.
It's good. That's some of the things I love the most about you is your military things you can't get rid of.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, man. Thank you for your service. Pretty damn awesome.
Thank you.
What's your shirt say?
So this shirt says we're here to fuck shit up.
I like that.
So this shirt's pretty funny. There's a cool story behind it. Ryan Cloutier, who was on your show, I went to his house for the first time, and I dropped an energy drink, and it blew up all over his living room. After being there for like 3 minutes, it was like the best, first introduction ever.
Yeah. He took it
Classic.
He took it pretty good, though, I assume.
Yeah, he's a good dude.
All right. I'm moving over here. So for people who don't know Matt and I go back. When was the first time we met? It was the shit show, right? The security shit show. You watched that, and then you came to the 5th anniversary or 50th show, which was in Nebraska.
Nebraska, yep, but that's not what I'm known for, apparently.
What do you mean, what you're known for?
So we'll take a step back, like how this really started. It actually started without you. So I started Yep, isn't that crazy? So I started in the industry, and I got involved in the ISSA pretty early, going to those events. And we had this big one here at the Harley Museum, and Chris Roberts was talking.
Harley?
Yes, it was pretty awesome. Yeah. They had a lot of speakers there. Chris was one of the speakers. And the way he was just calling out bullshit, it kind of like really resonated with me. So I started following him on LinkedIn. A couple of years later, we go into COVID. Then the shit show happens. Start following that. Evan, humble dude. I think on one of the early episodes, you said, like, I'm willing to mentor anybody. So I reached out to you.
I said that?
We started doing like...
It's one of those things that somebody else holds me accountable to, and I forget that I said it.
We were talking like every other week or something, just checking in. You were mentoring me early. And then you had that episode. So we fast forward to that episode, right? Evan's always throwing out bullshit. And like, all right, we're having a live episode.
Throwing out bullshit.
Out bullshit. Waiting for people to call. No bullshit
here. Yeah, no bullshit here.
Yeah.
Right?
Correct. Because I've called you on it. I've called you on it, and it's not really bullshit, but it seems like bullshit. So
that's how you figure out what's bullshit and what's not bullshit. When you call the bullshit, and if they can back it up, it's not really bullshit, right?
Yeah, correct. So the live episode was in Nebraska, but apparently
the angry intern, by the way, the angry intern says, "Hola, Evan and Matt." Do you know who the angry intern is?
I do not know who the angry intern is. Am I supposed to know? Has he been here?
If I told you who he was, you'd be like, "Oh yeah, I know that guy."
Oh, okay. Well, hello.
Now we're going to put your OSINT skills to task.
Work. Okay. Yeah.
See, this is part of the mentoring, man. Just trying to, train you up while we're going.
Right.
So you showed up in Nebraska.
No. So I showed up in South Dakota because the national park was in 2 states. And when I put it into Google, I just went to where it went. So I enter the park on the South Dakota side. I'm driving around. I call Ryan and drops me a pin. I'm like, yo, I'm looking for this campsite. Here's the number. I'm driving by it 100 times. I don't see anybody. End up, I was on the wrong side in the wrong state. So that's my name, South Dakota.
Just across the border, right? Well, yeah, because then I had shit. But I met you the first time in person in Nebraska. Or did I go to South Dakota to help you get to Nebraska?
No, I drove over there.
Okay.
I met you there at the campsite.
All right. Yeah, it was you and that John Kittleson, the 2 Marines, 2 crazy-ass Marines.
Yeah, 2 of us showed up. You invited a whole bunch of people, and everyone else bitched out.
Well, I mean, it's like a long trip.
It was. It was an 8-hour drive. I took off of work. I'm like, hey, guys, I'm just going to meet some random people. They're like, you're crazy. Oh, I hope I don't die. But I didn't. I survived. So it's all good. Yeah.
Well, that's one of the things I like about you too, man, is you're crazy. I like, I'm crazy. For sure.
You are, I wouldn't say you're crazy. I would say it's always a adventure. That's what I would say.
Yeah. That's what Marla says too. I think it's just that's the politically correct way to say you're crazy.
I remember, what was it, the second time I was there? You're like, all right, let's go walk to town. I'm like, all right. He's going to walk like, a block and he's going to say, fuck it.
Well, here, the second time you came here to Mexico.
Yes.
How many times have you been here now?
4.
Yeah.
4 times.
Yeah.
But the second time you're like, let's walk to town. It's like fucking 10 miles. And I'm like, we're not going to do that.
That was a good walk.
At night, almost getting hit by cars and shit, but it was a really good time.
It was fucking awesome, man. We had a great time. Yeah, I enjoyed the shit out of that. And when you came down here, the first time you came down here, did you go scuba diving the first time you came down here?
Yep.
Yeah.
I did one dive that first time.
And now you're advanced.
Certified. Yep.
Advanced
been going 3-4 times every time I come down.
Yeah. That's super cool, man. It's one of the funnest things here is people that come here. I think since we moved here, maybe 25, 30 people have gone on their first dive and probably, I don't know, 10? No. 15 maybe have gotten certified. The Angry Intern is one of those who has also gotten certified. That's a hint for you.
Awesome. I'm trying to multitask right now.
On your OSCENT, you're doing the OSCENT at the same time?
Yep.
All right.
I try to do that stuff.
So what do you, when we first met, I think you were kind of like an analyst, weren't you? At like a bank or a credit union, big kind of credit union?
Yeah. So the first time we started talking, I was an analyst at the local credit union here in Wisconsin. And then during COVID, I did not understand what I understand now. So I was chasing technology initially. I was like, why aren't we buying all the cool shit? We need all this stuff. Like, we're not doing the best in breed stuff. Like, I want to go somewhere else. Was initially why I left. Come to find out, it's a totally different world.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like I've gone to different industries. So I went to, the pharmaceutical, medical industry, gigantic company.
I forgot about that shit. You were doing like endpoint shit there, weren't you?
It was really cool, but it was kind of boring, like specializing in one thing. But yeah, it was 100% endpoint, but it was large scale, larger than I could have thought. And now I'm here at a manufacturing company, kind of middle of the ground there between the two.
Yeah, well, it's been really cool though, man, because I've seen your career progress, and I've seen you, learn so much. One of the things I think that serves you really well is you're very inquisitive. You're always asking why. And I wish more people did that in our industry, because I think a lot of people kind of take this spoon-fed approach and don't really get down to the why and understand the logic underneath all of this, which leads us to this episode, right? You had brought something up about, and I think I came up with the title, Fuck the Fear Factory, but essentially it was, how fear is oversold, overused in our industry to sell people products for people, people make these decisions. And it was really wise that you've noticed that. That's the thing to your advantage, man. I mean, you ask why, and you have this ability to think critically, which brings us to the forefront.
So what's really interesting about this topic is I've thought about it a couple different times, and really, I feel like a lot of people think about things and they just don't say it because they're like, I'm the only one that's thinking it, or I'm going to, cause a riff or something. But as I've been going through this journey, just been saying, fuck it. So I was actually at the gym on the treadmill, and I thought about this, and I came up with some analogies. I was like, this is great. So when I started working out with my trainer, I was like, dude, text me this. Had him text me like 5 or 6 words to help me remember what was in my mind so I could write up a post later, and then I sent that to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, crazy.
Well, it's awesome, man, because, and I think one of the things that's a benefit to mentorship and to, I think, working the support of other people in your life is it does give you, I think, the courage to say what you are thinking. I think a lot of people are thinking the same stuff, but they're afraid to say it because, they don't want to have their necks stuck out and they don't want to get, they don't want to lose their job, whatever.
It's uncomfortable, but growth happens in uncomfortable places.
Absolutely, man. And if you're the kind of guy who is inquisitive and can think critically, when you stick your neck out, you can defend what it is you said. I think the fear comes from like, okay, this is what I think.
Being judged.
Yeah, this is what I think. And then when you're judged, it's like, shit, now can't defend it. And there are some people in our industry too. I mean, there's a lot of posturing in our industry. There's a lot of intimidation in our industry. I just called somebody out on Twitter today who's a super well-known security person because, I thought what he wrote was stupid. Well, foolish is what I said. And then, but when you do that, I mean, you are putting your neck out, right? You're opening yourself up to a lot of criticism, a lot of attack. And I think that's one of the fears that some people have too about why they do what they do in this industry.
Yeah, because there's so many, it's probably the same in every industry, but there's the people at the top that you have this perception of, there's the yous, the Chris's, and all the other people out there, even the owners of, the Microsofts and things, right? They know what they're talking about. But what is that saying? Some smart person once said, like, the more you learn, the more you figure out you don't know. And so, like, I think that's where some of that, everyone that you talk to, right, has imposter syndrome. Like, I don't deserve to be here. Why am I here? But you're there because you had the pain.
Yeah.
Going through this stuff.
And I think, at least the older I've gotten, the more I just don't give a shit what people think. There was a time for sure when, I was afraid to say some of the things I wanted to say because for that same reason. But, it's like, screw it, man. I'm tired of seeing things done poorly. I'm tired of seeing things done wrong. And you said one thing, and, one of the things you just said there was, people high up in this industry or, been around for a long time, that they know what they're doing. But what if I told you a lot of them don't know what the fuck they're doing?
So I'm actually starting to believe that. And I think it's because I'm getting some of my own imposter syndrome and I'm not trying to like posture myself. But I've had this back to like where I was a couple of years ago, right? Like, why aren't we buying all this technology? You need to buy all the cool stuff. But now I sit back and I'm in a different position doing different things. And I think things are going as well as they could be going. So like, why do I need to spend more money and buy more things? And then you see all the red team, hack this, hack that, vulnerability, and like none of it seems to be helping anything. I took this weird public speaking, like 1 day thing. And we had to come up with a quick story on the spot or whatever. And of course, I talked about security. I'm like, how can I resonate with people? And after I was done with my quick thing, they said, you just sound like some angry guy standing on the corner yelling at people. Like, well, that's okay. It didn't really mean anything to me at the time. But now as I'm looking, I'm like, that's what all these so-called researchers or bug bounties, like whatever these people are doing, that's all they're doing is they're standing on LinkedIn yelling at people. Or at least that's the perception because you never see them talk about fixing or helping people. It's just, and that's the problem with social media.
Yeah, that's really interesting feedback. I mean, it's like, oh, shit, all right. And I think that's one of the things that really helps us in our industry is when we do understand other people's perspectives, people who aren't like us. And rather than validating what I'm saying all the time, I do enjoy when people challenge it, when people disagree with me. I think I was talking to a guy earlier today. He was interviewing for a job that we had posted. And I guess I was invited.
You're one of the final interviewers?
I don't know. Usually they don't include me in this shit.
You got to make sure that your truck can drive over him? Is that what it is?
Yeah. Let's check. Well, you can just give me his body dimensions for that. But, he's been in the industry a while and he's done a lot of cool things. And We were talking about how just, we put so much stock in people based on how many years they've been in this industry, but you can't take that without considering where they come from, what type of experience it was, because our industry is kind of so fucked up that there's a lot of people who have been in this industry for a really long time that still suck at what they do. I mean, and nobody's calling them out because they have been here for so long.
And
Nobody
there's no
wants to confront them.
accountability.
Right. Like,
So
who's like, let's say Chris, right? A guy that we both respect, highly respect, but hypothetically, let's say that he gave advice and the advice that he gave was bullshit.
no one would say anything. No.
Well, I would.
Well, yeah. I think
But
he'd kill me, but I'm still scared.
Nah, he wouldn't.
Yeah, I know.
It's about it's about the way you say it. But there's a lot of that. And that's what I was telling you about this tweet earlier today. I was like, it's fucking bullshit, man. I mean, it's just shitty advice. It's fear-mongering bullshit, which it was perfect for tonight because we're talking about fuck the fear factory.
So back to your time in the industry thing, right? People always ask me, how long I've been in the industry. I say, 15, 16 years, but I've only been in corporate America 8 years now. And some people are like, well, how's that possible? And I actually I did this personal coaching session, and he kind of helped me get to this conclusion. But even though I was in the Marine Corps and I was doing radio communications, my main job most of the time was asset management. And if we go into corporate America, number one thing people suck at, asset management. So that is like what I am the most, it just bothers me the most, I guess, that we can't do that. And I think it's accountability. And what I've seen is we just give people stuff. But here's your laptop, here's your server. Most of the time, they don't even know it's their server. They don't even know it's their application. You just buy it, give it to them. In the military, we make people sign for shit. Pen to paper, you sign it. That gives them a different feeling of accountability. And for the life of me, I don't know why we can't do that in the corporate America. Maybe because they just write off laptops. No one cares about losing a laptop. It just degrades anyway. Who cares?
Yeah. Well,
who knows how much money gets lost?
I think you put your finger on the issue. It's accountability. Today, I don't know how long this industry's actually been around. I guess depending on your perspective and the scope and whatever, you could say it's always been around. But ever since I've been in this industry, there's still no real understanding of what's negligent and what's not negligent.
Mm.
Logically, it seems completely irresponsible to not know what you have, especially when a
logical person would think that maybe.
Right. But then let's go with the fear thing. Why are people so, one of the things I was curious about, so I did a little research before tonight.
That's why you're awesome. You always come with the facts.
Well, I don't know if they're, facts, sources, who knows?
Data. We'll call it data.
Yeah, well, at least it's something that it's a starting place where you can, have a discussion about it. But, I was curious, is this done on purpose? In our industry, is the fear factory purposeful? Is it perpetuated on purpose? Or is this just something just happens? Because you look at so many of the things the decisions that people are making in the products that they're buying, where they're putting their money, this complacency sometimes it's just ignorance. Where does it come from? Because from when you look at it logically, it's a no-brainer. And so you start to question yourself, am I fucking wrong? Are people that fucking stupid? Or, what?
I would say it's 100% intentional.
It is.
And I think, and here's where I always go round and round, and maybe you can help me out. There's a lot that gets talked about, divine masculine, divine feminine, being in touch with your emotions, emotional intelligence, all kinds of stuff like that. That's all valid. But what I think happens is negative always is more powerful. So we overload the negative, and I don't think making emotional decisions is a good idea because you're taking logic and rational out of the decision-making process. So this constant fear, ransomware, vulnerabilities, blah, 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 keeps people in this emotional state to make decisions based off of that emotion. And I think people just succumb to it because it's so much. Like, it's gotten worse the short time I've been here.
Well, and just sometimes just saying that seems like it's fear-driven. You know what I mean? Because you say these things, they're 100% true, and they're 100% backed by logic. But do I sound like the guy standing on the street corner when I'm saying this? Or do I sound like the guy that's like, no, man, I'm not trying to use fear to get you to do something. I'm trying to get your attention and tap into critical thinking, tap into your logic. Because that, if you really wanted to build the best security programs, if you really wanted to do the responsible things with information security, you would follow logic. Logic is your best friend, but you do get bombarded by fear all the time. And the way you counter fear is education. A lot of times it's skepticism, it's critical thinking. I
think you have to have a network of people to keep you grounded.
That's important too, because there are times when, you are so counterculture, the industry's going this way and fear, and statistics and ransomware and all this shit all the time. And you're the guy that's like, oh, wait a second, take a step back, think this through. Should you buy the blinky lighty thing when you don't have an asset inventory? We know that complexity is the worst enemy of security, and you already don't know what you got. Why the fuck would you add more to it? It doesn't make any damn sense.
It's like I was at this gathering and talking about all the buzzwords, right? And these guys are like, I got to buy this. I'm buying this. I can't get budget. I can't get approval. And I'm like, you have so much money. Why do you need more? Am I doing something wrong? I don't have that. Do I need that? So you start to question yourself. Like, am I doing something right or doing something wrong? But I have, my experience and my history and things that kind of validate along the road that what I'm doing is the right thing to do.
Well, that's another legitimate fear, right? This fear of missing out. When everybody else is doing it and you're the one not doing it, you do ask that. You're like, did I miss something? But the cool thing, and again, to give you credit and the way I like your approach, and the reason why I think you're going to be an amazing information security leader is you are inquisitive. It's okay to ask the question, why? Am I missing something? And then play that out. Like, what am I missing? If I am missing something, what am I missing? And because that's the logic. The fear of missing out is like, fuck, everybody else is buying this shit. And you just go buy the shit. You didn't buy the shit because it made any damn sense. You bought the shit because everybody else had the shit. And really, you bought it because you were afraid of missing out.
I won't be able to sit there and talk about it and sound like an expert in the thing.
Right, which it's really when people in any other industry, the true experts are the ones who can simplify. When you can take complex things and make it understandable to somebody who's not an expert. Right? But for some reason in our industry, you're taken as an expert when you can confuse the shit out of people by making things overly complex by using as many acronyms as possible. And everybody's like, oh my God, this guy's fucking brilliant.
Well, so
no, he or she would be brilliant if they could explain what they just fucking said in a language that you fucking understand.
Going back to, they're using, acronyms and things to make themselves sound really smart, right? Who are they talking to? Most of the time, we're talking to ourselves in a mirror. If we're on LinkedIn or Twitter or whatever, we're trying to collect followers. We're trying to get followers that are also doing the same thing that we're doing. So we're talking to ourselves. Now, if you go into a business,
that's true, though, man. I think you're talking. No, well, I don't know. Maybe I don't understand that analogy, but I think you're talking. You're trying to portray yourself as somebody that you're not. When you look in the mirror, that's where the imposter syndrome comes in. Because when you look at yourself in the mirror, you understand who you really fucking are.
Mm-hmm.
You're trying to look like you're the authority, like you got all your shit together. And so you put off, and then I think where you really get into a dangerous spot yourself mentally is when you start to buy into your own bullshit. Because now you've lost track of reality. You actually think you're fucking that good, but you're not.
You're letting your ego drive.
I think so.
Yeah, I think we were talking about two different things.
Yeah, I think we're saying probably the same things.
Yeah.
I think so too. Yeah.
Because
too.
I'm trying to get to like, I think a lot of times we're talking to ourselves, like me talking to you, another professional, but I'm not stepping outside of that, our industry, to talk to, say, our business partners. Because if you go and talk to your business partners and you talk about all these acronyms and stuff, they're going to nod your head and you're going to look super smart. They're going to go back to their desk and they're going to be like, what the fuck did I just hear? They don't think you're smart. They think you're arrogant because you're not talking with them. You're talking at them.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. I think because you hear it every time. And that's one of the many reasons I don't like going to conferences anymore is it's just this hissing contest of, I did blah, 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 blah. And sometimes I'll like engage just so I can call out the bullshit, because it's like, okay, tell me more about this blah, 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 blah thing. And then you keep asking why. By the way, that's the best way to take somebody out of a social engineering pretext is keep questioning until they run out of their pretext, right? Because when you build a pretext, it's like acting.
It's like a script, right?
Yeah, it's like acting. So you're trying to act like this person. And if you keep asking questions, and they get off script, that's when you truly call the bullshit. So it's like, you can try it sometime when you go to a conference. Just keep asking why. Really? No shit. Explain more. I'm really intrigued by that. And then, shit, okay, tell me more. Tell me some more details. You keep getting there, and then pretty soon you find out, like, you're full of shit. But we do that a lot in our industry. Because I think a lot of people in our industry are afraid. I mean, you talk about fear. I think they're afraid to be themselves.
Yeah, I probably get that.
And if you can get on this path of truly, I think, accepting yourself, get to be comfortable with being transparent, I think you can take a lot of that fear away. Because then even if people are judging me or whatever the fuck they think, I don't really give a shit what they think anyway.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's just all about, wait, I have this. I thought I had this here.
Yeah, what?
I wrote something here, I think, that you told me like years ago. Yep, right here it is. It says validation of yourself within yourself. You told me that, I don't know, like last year or something. So,
Where
yeah.
the fuck's this wisdom come from?
Sometimes you get lucky, I think.
I know. I just like shoot in the dark, like, hey, I hit something. Look at that. How about that? So the purpose. So let's talk about the purpose behind the Fear Factory. Because I like you, I do believe it's done on purpose. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's done with malicious intent all the time. I think it's done on purpose because I think there's a lot of motivators. And the first one I sort of came up with was the profit motive. Truth is fear sells, right? Everybody says, fear, uncertainty, and doubt, right?
Yep. I mean, you see that with commercials on TV, with anything, mostly sex, alcohol, probably, the missing out.
Yeah. So that's one of the reasons. Another reason, competitive market pressures. Believe it or not, this industry is crowded and it is highly competitive. The weird thing about it is, when you look at the total addressable market, just in the United States, we've probably hit, when I say we, I'm talking more of the consulting side, less like commodity products like antivirus. We've probably hit maybe 20% of the total addressable market. And what we do in our industry often is we stumble over each other and fight each other for the 20% as opposed to teaming up together and going to get the 80.
Well, because they don't have all the money.
Right. But when you're in this ultra competitive sort of place, you're looking for something to differentiate yourself, and you do want to tap in to that emotion to get somebody to buy something before they go to a competitor. So it's almost like fear from the vendor driving fear to consumer. It's kind of weird.
I'm not a seasoned business person.
Me
But
neither.
if we're in this to win the game, play the game, doesn't the game winning mean like attacks stop, cybercrime stops? So instead of being competitors, shouldn't we be like teammates?
Collaborators.
Yeah, collaborators.
Yeah, but that requires us to be accountable to each other.
And now we get to speaking out and holding each other accountable. I like it.
Yeah, because
So
if
that
I
was a
want to
good
partner,
thing there.
if I want to partner up with you, well, now I'm going to have to tell you how I do shit, and I'm going to have to lay it on the table, and you're going to have to do the same, and we're going to have to critique each other, and we're going to have to call each other's bullshit.
And I think I'm going to lose competitive advantage or market penetration or whatever because I'm telling you how I do things.
Or, your bullshit.
Yep. I would imagine a lot is the latter.
Yeah, because, and that's one of the things, and I'm going to tout our horn because I'm proud of our team. FR Secure is that way. We want to collaborate. We understand. In a lot of cases, we have more business than we can handle right now. We would much rather collaborate and partner with companies that we trust to serve the customer well, but it's amazing how difficult it is to do that because other people don't view us as competitors. It's like, we're going to give you customers. Like, how is that competing? I don't know.
Do you think
No.
burnout has anything to do with us wanting to collaborate versus just compete? Like maybe you get tunnel vision and
Yeah, I think that's also one of the risks, in the fear factory is burnout, because when you're running high on emotions, because fear is an emotion, it's a basic emotion. It's an instinctual emotion. You've got the fight or flight thing. It's all integrated with that. And when you're running at that level for a long period of time, yeah, you're definitely going to burn out. And then I think it just perpetuates itself. Think of like if you're scuba diving and fear hits you. You're like, fuck, your heart rate goes up.
like when you got rammed by a fish.
Yeah, fucking fish. That was a night dive too. That was scary as hell.
That was we both saw it coming. It was like, what the fuck is that?
I've never seen that in my, I haven't dove like 1,000 times, 100 maybe or so, but never had a fish come off the bottom and like come right at me. It was freaky.
It was weird.
Yeah, super weird. But fear feeds fear. When you're fearful, you do shit, and then based on the shit you did, it feeds more fear, and that's where panic comes in. So I think you might be fearful because of burnout, because you're afraid of burning out. It just like it feeds itself.
Right. You don't want to burn out, so you just keep going and you don't realize like you're already in it.
And you're making the problem worse.
Yeah, I could totally see that being me a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's another thing, man, I didn't bring you here to stroke your ego, but as a friend who genuinely gives a shit about you and loves you as a brother, you're a lot better at that. I remember the first time you were down here, you were all freaked out that me and Ryan were CIA or some shit.
Oh yeah, you guys were like plotting. Yep. Nope. There's definitely the paranoia has come down, but we've made some life altering decisions along that way, which is crazy. But to keep that going though, like if I go out and talk to, I'll call them normal people, they're always like, you security people, and you do it to me all the time too. You're like, what are you doing that for? What do you got that turned off? Who cares? Just let yourself get hacked. Whatever. No big deal. But I'll be like, don't scan that QR code. Oh, you stupid security people. Like, just because we can see how, stuff can in a perfect situation like happen, we're super paranoid that it's always going to happen to us. And it's kind of paralyzing. No, it really is paralyzing.
Yeah. Well, and one of the biggest mistakes I see most security people make is making risk decisions out of context. So if you're just looking at that series of events and just focused on that, it can seem like it's the worst, scariest thing ever. But when you put it into context, a greater context, it's not that big a deal.
So is that So for these guys that are sitting on the street corner just yelling, is that what they are missing? So example, they're just out there researching, red teaming, whatever, doing their own thing. They're not working, well, I don't know, this is my perception, not working with a business to have to understand the business context, which really brings into like that vulnerability is not really a big deal. Like we have bigger problems about paying people or making product. Like it's a different context.
For sure. Yeah, when you think about all the things that a CEO has to take into account and all the different inputs that they're getting, what we don't, but the challenge is though, it's a double-edged sword. There's what's responsible for them, what's not responsible is complete ignorance, which I think a lot of CEOs are sort of operating under. But it's also not responsible for them to drop everything and focus on that vulnerability that I just brought up. Both sides are, both sides of the extreme are irresponsible, but where do we fit? What we don't want is them to be ignorant. We want them to know about, what we think are the most significant risks so that they can make good, educated risk decisions. We don't want to overwhelm them. We don't want to sell fear. We want to sell logic. We want to sell education. That's how you combat the fear factory. One of the biggest things you can do is educate, be transparent.
That's like essentially what I thought about, right? If I'm trying to sell you a car and you come into a car lot, you're going to buy a car, and I tell you, yep, you buy this car, the wheel's going to fall off tomorrow and you're going to crash and die. Are you going to buy that car? No. I'm selling you a different lifestyle. You buy this car, roll around, pick up chicks, listen to loud music, get good vibes, whatever. That's what I'm selling you. But for whatever reason, we keep saying, if you don't patch this, or if you don't do that, you're going to get hacked. But wait, you're not going to get hacked because you're already hacked. You must assume that you're hacked. So if I'm assuming my car is going to crash as soon as I drive off the lot, why am I going to go buy a car? It's the most dangerous mode of transportation, but I still drive it anyway because it's risk.
But it's a risk that you grew up with and you understand well inherently. So you understand the risk and you accept it. And so if you could get to that same level with information security, that's the win. And eventually you will. I mean, because it just takes time to get through it all and for people to, because if you look at your own life, right? Information security is just a thing that I kind of take for granted a lot. I don't think about it as much as people might think I do because I've been in it for so long, it comes kind of second nature now.
Well, and you were in it throughout like a good portion of like a lot of the transitions in the early days. Now, I mean, you just get thrown in it. There's no like ramping up. There's like no learning it. Like what Ryan says a lot, the analog and digital person, like we don't feel the digital. So we don't understand it.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, computers don't have any damn emotions.
Yeah, apparently. We'll get there soon, I guess.
Even when you do, it'll be emulated emotions. It won't be true emotions. Computers will only always, except for quantum, but we're not going to get there tonight. Computers only do what you tell them to do. That's it. I mean, there's no magic to it. And so that's the big reason, especially with digital computers. That's why logic is your best friend. Think cause and effect is a really big thing in our industry. Sadly, I think there's so many people that I think just don't understand it well, that do fall for the fear. And the fear is, I mean, it's always been there, right? This has always been a thing. Fear, the reason by fear, I mean, there's like even psychological and physiological things that happen with fear. Parts of your brain activate when you're afraid and it shuts out logic.
Your muscles, blood, all the stuff changes. It's like a natural instinct, almost like we evolved from something.
Yeah. Well, so you can't stop fear. I mean, it's always going to be there. But what you can always do is recognize it, right? You can be more deliberate. Because I mean, I've had the same. There's reasons why certain people panic in dangerous situations and other people don't. And I think it's a learned response. It's not some magic. It's not like, well, you have a gift that I don't have. I think everybody, unless you have some mental issues, I think everybody has the ability to learn how to control their fear.
You have to put in the work. It doesn't just happen.
Right, but that's the big reason why we have so many people, we get all frustrated by people clicking. Why the fuck did you click? I mean, didn't you read the damn email? I mean, they're not going to, close you out of your bank account. Why'd you click the link, and try to log in? It was all fear. They didn't think. And so you're teaching them to think. That's not going to get over the hump. They're not going to think. If they got past the fear and actually the thinking part came in, then they would actually think. The things that you train them to do, they would do. It's the afterwards piece where, all right, you already clicked the link. Now I need you to report it. But even then, a lot of people are afraid to do that.
Well, they're thinking about all kinds of other stuff, though, too. So, I think we take for granted sometimes, that's what we think about. They don't think about that. I mean, we still think about, did I shower this morning? Did I put my shoes on? All the normal stuff. But they're thinking about that and not about clicking out stuff. I guess to another point, should they have to worry about clicking on stuff? Shouldn't our shit just work?
Well, I mean, you won't know. Well, I don't think so, because you won't be able to fix the human with technology.
But
if you were going to do that, you have to take them.
Stop stuff? Why does it get through my firewall? If I have a firewall, why does it get through?
Most people don't use their firewalls, right? I mean, you're talking about, I mean, I think you're getting probably into some more advanced things, but if I can't do an asset inventory.
If I don't know what I have, how are you going to do anything?
Yeah.
It blows I mean, maybe it's just a different level of accountability, right? If I was deployed and they said, where's this radio? And I didn't know the radio was, everything stopped. Fucking, there was no patrols. No one was relaxing, playing cards. Everybody's out looking for this radio. They're doing emergency changes. The radio's lost. It's game on. Here, where's the laptop? Meh, I don't know. I gotta check my email. I gotta sit in another hour-long meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, so why don't we as professionals take as much pride in what we do?
That's a good question. I think a lot of us, it's a combination. A lot of us don't know what we're doing.
Kind of fell into it.
Or just, it pays well. It feels good. I get to a lot of respect that comes with this, job. Usually people think you're really smart. I mean, it's easy to be like,
they do. People are like, oh my God, you're a hacker. No, I don't really do anything. A lot of meetings.
Yeah. Too many damn meetings.
But you can hack my phone, right? Sure. Yes, I can. It's already hacked. It's done.
Yeah. Yeah. Just go talk to the Chinese. But yeah, and I don't think there's a simple answer to a lot of these things. I think, we're still learning, sadly. I mean, I've always taken pride in my work. I think some people maybe take pride in the wrong part of their work. Maybe they don't understand what the fundamentals actually are, or because it's not sexy. It's boring as shit sometimes. I'm doing an asset inventory. Boring. I'd rather code some cool shit, to do something nobody else is doing.
I have a cool story. Asset inventory. It happened today, actually. So no surprise, I like asset inventory. I have my intern is working on a project for me to help with said problem. So he's looking at the numbers, he's doing math, pulling these things, and he's like, well, why don't these match up? So we're starting to talk through all these reasons why things wouldn't be matching up and stuff. And where he want it to be. And he's like, well, shouldn't that like just get put on there like right away? I was like, yeah, that's a great question you're asking. You should go look at the process and figure out why it's not working. And like you could see like the light bulb go on in his head, like, oh my God, like it's not really that complicated, but you have to like dig in and ask other people uncomfortable questions.
Yeah, complexity is the worst. Complexity is the worst enemy. If you can just drill that into your head, the more shit you add, the harder you make it, you know? So why add more shit? But you touched on another thing. I think one of the reasons.
Did you know that Confucius said man with 4 balls cannot walk? I apparently just learned this. Spoonie 412 said that.
I have 3 balls. Did I tell you about that story?
I've heard about it a couple times. You've talked about it.
It's called the hydrocell. It's actually pretty popular in men. It's not really a third testicle. It just seems like a third testicle. So I suppose if you had 2 hydrocells, maybe that would be 4 balls, and then I would be able to tell you. I'd be able to validate. But that goes to the critical thinking too. Like, I don't know. Why wouldn't I be able to walk with 4 balls?
Yeah, I feel like you probably could. It might be painful, maybe. I don't know. Was the hydrocell
just separate
painful?
Them, just wear special underwear that keeps them all in their own little pockets or something.
Like,
I don't know.
That could be a patent idea, like a hydrocell jockstrap
for all the 4-balled men out there.
Yeah.
But you one of the things we've brought up numerous times in this discussion is the lack of accountability. You've got the lack of accountability on the security side, but there's also a lack of accountability on the vendor side. You know,
totally.
So there's a lack of accountability for just what it is I'm selling you, but there's also a lack of accountability for exaggeration, false advertising. So
what's the worst fear pitch you've seen? False advertising.
Man, that's a good question. I can't think of one off the top of my head. I think it's usually not so overt. I've seen lots of promises of guaranteed protection, 100% prevention, you know, risk. Like, I mean, look at what's the wolf place?
The Arctic Wolf people.
Arctic Wolf, right. Their mission is to end cyber risk.
Yeah, good luck.
Impossible. But there's no accountability for saying anything.
They just bought that company from BlackBerry. They bought Cylance. Arctic Wolf just bought Cylance.
We can just deal with more bullshit.
BlackBerry lost a shit ton of money. They bought it for like $1 billion and they sold it for like 180 million or something.
Yeah,
you don't hear about those stories.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, there's so much money being thrown around in this industry with zero accountability associated.
Where's the money coming from? Give me some. I'll take it. If you don't want accountability.
No, then you'd be part of the problem, man. Then we'd be bitching about you.
Well, no, I'd still be doing my job. So, worst fear pitch I heard recently, and it was after the CrowdStrike thing. It was an email that said like, blah blah blah. You know, we're the best endpoint. Do you want to get caught up in another CrowdStrike thing? You know, buy our stuff. Like, not only are you selling fear, but you're using the pain and suffering of another person. I mean, you could, however you feel about that, it's still, you know, shady.
It's super shady, man. But there's no accountability for it, and it works.
Yeah, for sure.
People keep buying the shit, you know, which leads us to like, let's go through some examples. Examples of overhyping new threats is a common method.
Oh yeah, they're super sophisticated attack that we need next gen quantum to detect.
Right. I had one company tell me, because we were evaluating their shit, they wanted FR Security to do a technical evaluation of their thing.
Oh, I would love to do that.
And it was me and a couple of team members. I was asking questions. Okay, tell me how this thing works and blah, blah, blah. And he actually used a thing I've never heard anybody say. I was like, so how do these two functions work together? And he said, invisible process.
I had a feeling that's what you're talking about.
That would be the biggest one. Like, what the fuck did you, I'm like, what is an invisible process? And he's like, well, you know. I'm like, no, I don't fucking know. I've never heard of an invisible process before.
The only thing I could think of being an invisible process is that your so-called tool supposedly runs at a higher altitude than all the other EDR tools out there, to where you can actually see kernel level stuff, which we know Microsoft would not fucking allow anyway.
Oh, you're talking like Ring Zero shit?
Yeah.
Even then, it's not invisible.
Well,
it's just it's invisible
to yeah.
It's invisible to
there.
user mode. Yeah, it's invisible to
Yes.
user mode, but in kernel mode, you're seeing it.
Yeah.
So, and I would have given him some, like, oh, I meant invisible from, the user mode. I'd have been like,
No,
okay.
He kept on it.
No, he kept on it. He didn't understand what the fuck he was talking about. There's a lot of FUD marketing, right? We've all seen that, where you see things like, well, 90% of the companies, that didn't do this thing, they're going to get breached and they're going to lose, or they're already breached. You don't want to be next.
Where does that come from?
Well, I don't know if you've noticed this, but every single study that you've seen about our industry,
Deloitte, Accenture.
No, that or, any statistics, right? If you just look up, Google cybersecurity statistics, and every one of those studies that's been done has been sponsored by a vendor trying to sell you something.
Right. They sponsor, or they spin up their own company, create a magazine, and give themselves fucking awards and shit.
Yeah. Like HelpNet Security is the biggest scam. They come off as a news organization, but every single one of their damn news articles is sponsored. But people don't pay attention to that stuff. People don't, I think, ask enough questions. They see a statistic and they say, oh my God, 90% of all companies who don't do this thing get breached within 24 hours. Fuck, we need to do that. And they'll even use that statistic to justify their budget for it.
Yep.
But without ever looking at, okay, where did this study come from? This study, let's say it was for a backup solution. And here you got backup solution or some shit. And 90% of companies who didn't do this thing lost all their files, never got them back, whatever the hell you want to say. And so you use that number and you're like, oh shit, I don't want to, fuck, we got to do this right away. But you don't take a minute to look okay, who sponsored this? Oh, it's this backup solution provider.
You just believe it's almost like with the social media stuff, you don't read the stuff, you just read the headline.
Yeah, and it's really difficult to find true data.
I'm totally guilty of that, by the way. It's
because it's effective as hell.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's so fucking effective.
Hey, I wanted to tell you, Arctic Wolf no longer has end cyber risk on their website. I remember you called that out in one of the shit show things.
Yeah, and they had talked to me about that too. Well, that's not what we mean. I'm like, why the fuck do you say it?
Marketing told us it was a good idea.
So here's another example promoting the myth of guaranteed protection, 100% protection.
Yeah, no, not a thing. The only way to do that is not plug your computer in.
Right. Well, and I was talking to, my daughter has a friend here visiting from Montana.
Montana? Joe Montana?
Yeah. And we were talking about, for some reason, she knows I work in information security. So she was like, have you ever hacked your truck? Like, no, I haven't. She's like, well, why not? And I'm like, I don't have any fucking time to do that. She's like, well, could you hack your truck? I'm like, yeah, I could hack my truck, guaranteed. I just need something's got to motivate me to fucking do it. And there's nothing motivating me to do it. And she's like, well, how do you know it can be hacked? I go, well, here's the logic. On average, 7 errors per 1,000 lines of code. That's the average, right? Some industries are better, some industries are worse, some development shops are better, some development shops are worse. So 7 errors per 1,000 lines of code. What runs in this truck today is 250 million lines of code. So if you do the math, 250 million lines, divide that by 1,000, multiply that by 7, you're going to come up with some number. That's how many bugs are in the code running this fucking truck right now. Some of those bugs are just functional bugs. They're just things that don't work. But some of those are security vulnerabilities. So if I was really interested in hacking this fucking truck, that's, it would only be a matter of time before I find one of those vulnerabilities and I'm able to exploit it. And, it's just logic shit. But that's the thing about this. There's no such thing as 100% protection even in like the most sophisticated security tools that are out there, because they've got lines of code.
Mm-hmm.
Anything beyond like hello world is going to have vulnerabilities,
Especially when you're importing all these third-party libraries, like you don't even know the depth to which your code tree is going.
Right. And the more complex your code, the more insecure it's going to be. Probably. I mean, just in general. And let's say like you test the shit out of this code, test it, hack it, test it, which, some security tools you would do. You might get it down to a couple of errors per 1,000 lines of code, maybe, but you're still going to have errors. You're never going to get rid of the errors because you're human. That's how we do things. And then you hear people like, well, what if I used AI to code it? Okay, well, AI, you're just adding more fucking complexity now, because now I've got the code. AI runs on code. AI is not just some magical fucking Oracle thing. It's a bunch of lines of fucking code, and probably a really complex algorithm pulling from really complex data stores. So you're just going to have more errors propagate, really.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then if you had AI like check for errors on your code, it's just like you're just fucking it up.
Automate it, maybe more efficient, but it's not going to get rid of the problem. I think that's one of your thingies here. Attack what the hell did you say on here? Attack the problem, not fear the something.
No.
You have pretty impressive notes here. But
yeah, you know me and my notes. Well, here's another one. Using high-profile breaches as scare tactics. We see that all the time where, oh my God, colonial pipeline, blah, blah, blah.
I wanted to say, before I forget, talking about budgets, I guess at one point we were.
Budgets.
If your CEO or whatever is like not giving you budget, that means they're probably doing a good job.
Who's doing a good job?
The CEO. Because you probably don't need to buy shit.
Well, maybe.
Maybe, but do you have an asset inventory? If you don't have that.
But my job is to consult the business, consult the CEO to make those good information security risk decisions. So if I'm not getting budget, then I must suck at consulting the business to do good things. Because otherwise, I wouldn't have it in the fucking budget. No, I wouldn't be asking for it. And if I did ask for it, I would fully expect it to get approved because I made the case.
Needed and justified.
Exactly. Yeah, which is more work. It's more work. You have to simplify shit, right? You have to take this complex information security, blah, 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 threats, vulnerabilities, all this shit, boil it down into something that they can understand so that they can make a good information security risk decision, and do it in a way that you can be challenged, do it in a way that it's transparent, and not selling fear. Because one of the damages that comes with fear is you erode trust. If you really want to understand what fear does to you and does to your company you're working for, does to your own career, read The Boy Who Cried Wolf. That's like age-old fucking wisdom right there. That's what happens.
You're going to get hacked. No, we're already hacked. Buy this.
Well, and you're noticing that people are paying, people hear about security stuff more and more, but the fear is, I think, getting more and more out of hand. Take breach notifications. Like breach notifications 10 years ago, if you got a breach notification in your mailbox, you were like, what the fuck? You were pissed off.
Oh, yeah. Who gives a shit? Right?
Right. And so you get desensitized from fear.
So there is more talk around the entire thing, right? Phishing, social engineering. Like I see it on the news. But it's the same message that we've been doing in the enterprise for a decade that hasn't been working. And now we're just regurgitating that out into the mainstream, thinking it's going to help because some local person with acronyms and shit wants to be famous and goes and talks to the news and tells them, go tell the people not to click on stuff. That's super fucking efficient. It's been working great.
Well, like if you're going to, it's like raising kids, and I was actually talking to my son today. I have lots of grandkids now, and his son was talking back, not listening to him. Right. And I told him, man, everybody's you got to set your own boundaries. Everybody's got to set their own boundaries. Right. But the boundaries that I have in my house should be different than the boundaries you have in your house. It's the same with like risk acceptance. Like I accept risks that you won't accept and vice versa. But once you cross my line, then there are consequences. And so when I tell you this and you don't do this, there's consequences, right? That's where you insert accountability. So if I tell you to not click things and you still click things and nothing happens, why the fuck are you going to stop clicking things? There's no accountability. So either stop telling them and try to figure out another solution to the problem, or give them consequences. I mean, that's just psychologically how it works.
I go back and forth on that. I don't think people are intentionally clicking on things. I think people generally want to go to work, generally make it through the day. They might not want to be like a superstar employee, but like they don't want to break anything, so they're not trying to click that link. So I don't think they necessarily need to be yelled at or fired or, in the military, maybe punched in the chest. But maybe.
But how about take away their email, or
tell they do training or something, or just take it away for like a week.
Like you ground your kids for a couple of weeks. Take away email for 2 weeks. Well, if they need email to do their work, well, then take away all external email. If they need external email to do work, well, then give me the list of people that you need to communicate with, and we'll
filter that.
Allow list those. I mean, otherwise, it's just the same bullshit. Or you could just accept it that this is the way it is. If we're just going to continually tell people not to click, then don't get fucking frustrated that they still keep clicking. You should expect it.
So, right. Then you circle back and then, the tools should be working. So if they click on something and we're not mad that they clicked on something, clicking on something shouldn't blow up the company.
Well, not if we're doing shit right. No, exactly.
But I have to have more blinky lights and things to make sure that doesn't happen.
Right. Yeah. Or you could just use the fucking router you've got sitting there and use it well. Yeah. I mean, you already have that's the thing. 90%. 90% is hypothetical. It's just a number.
We're just saying it's really high.
Yeah. A large percentage of organizations would do a much better job in information security without buying another fucking product. Use the products you already have correctly. And once you get that, you get your head around that, like a firewall, for instance. How many attacks could I stop or mitigate if I ran a firewall correctly? Ingress and egress.
So I was on your side until about 5 seconds ago. I just thought of something and I want to challenge you on it. Your firewall doesn't, it depends. I guess you're your network guy. It depends how your network is structured. If everyone's working from home, a lot of organizations are doing split tunneling, or because everything's SaaS, you don't need a VPN to go through your network. In that case, your firewall isn't going to protect anything. It'll protect your crown jewels, I guess.
And I've never been a fan of split tunneling.
No? What's the concern around that?
Because I want to control the traffic.
Because it's your traffic, your system, your data, control it all.
Yep. If you're a system that's going to be interacting with our work systems, which I'm responsible for protecting, that's just, and the reason why people don't do split tunneling as much anymore is because of the cost.
It's more higher to cost. Split tunnel?
It costs you more to not split tunnel.
Yeah, because you have to have bigger pipes.
Yeah.
You have to backhaul it all. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's probably a little more work and whatever, but yeah, I've never been a fan of split tunneling. If we were going to implement split tunneling, there's some other creative solutions you could do to extend your firewall rules out to the endpoints. But yeah, it gets sort of complicated. That's the problem. That's totally the problem, man. And that's why at some point, when you think logically, right, when you continue to add more shit and add more shit and add more shit, more vulnerabilities, there's a critical mass. There's a time, there's an eventuality where it just all crumbles to shit. And that's...
Well, we pretty much had it happen with the CrowdStrike thing.
No, it hasn't even come close to happening yet, though.
That's like the first big thing I mean, you could say the pipeline was a big thing, but that was still containerized, like CrowdStrike, or even, I guess, what was that, WannaCry or whatever, like shit like that was pretty global.
Yeah, but the people that matter, the people that matter didn't suffer. I mean, you need something where enough people, I mean, CrowdStrike was close. It was definitely the worst we've seen in terms of affecting the largest number of
like services and stuff.
Well, and just individuals, just people, the people we call normal people.
Traveling, airport. Yeah.
But we've been so irresponsible in the deployment and builds of things like that I think in the next 12 to 18 months, and I'm not fear-mongering, I think in the next 12 to 18 months, you're going to see more of those.
Something
worse. It's just logically, it's just where it's going.
Well, isn't that there's like some math I never remember things. I remember concepts where it like exponentially, like the technology is exponentially getting better.
Faster? You're talking about? Yeah, that was shit.
Yeah, that thing. But you think it's the same? Yeah. You think it's the same thing with attacks? It'll exponential. It's like going to get exponential. With AI now driving it?
No, well, I don't know if it's that. It's just this continual adopting new technology faster than we can secure it.
Complacency?
I mean, people, there's no consequence really to me to continue to fill my house with more and more technology and not change default passwords, not keep the systems up to date, to not follow basic practices. And the same for anybody outside of our industry, that's the same thing holds true. And poor choices have consequences, man.
Yeah.
And so it shouldn't be used as a fear. You should think, the advice to anybody would be to think it through.
Mm-hmm.
And then consider logically, what are the things that I can do to protect myself, to protect my family, to protect my company? And none of it would be to buy a new fucking product. You'd be able to take a look at what you currently have. So
open your book, like this is what I have access to right now.
Yeah. Well, I was actually starting to write a at-home security guide. You're new to this. It's overwhelming. You don't know where to start. Well, it's step one. And step one would be inventory, right? Take a look around, understand what you have.
Get rid of your all-in-one router so you can control it and see what's on your network.
Eventually, you'd get to that, right? But, but you've got this, I think, tidal wave of fear that still perpetuates. And when people are usually confronted with fear, they either make a rash decision that ends up being a poor decision,
or for them, good for someone else.
Like as a social engineer, the best thing for us to do when I was on any social engineering project was to leverage emotions, leverage fear, leverage anxiety, leverage whatever to get you to do something that you wouldn't normally do. When you're in a logical, calm state of mind, you don't do the shit that you do when you're driven by fear. And we've made things, I think, complex enough in our industry that once you've made a shitty decision based on fear, you don't even realize that you made a shitty decision based on fear. You still feel like you made the right decision because of the lack of, I think, understanding, education.
You're part of the pack because everyone's making bad decisions.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, other fear tactics, exploiting regulatory fines and penalties. We use that. Weaponizing vulnerability scanning results. Like, oh my God, you've got a vulnerability. This is
10,000 vulnerabilities.
Right. Oh my God. What do I do? You need to buy my shit for sure. And that's classic. And that's a classic one we see with penetration testers, ones that are usually the security people that are more highly technical, they don't understand risk in context. So to them and their testing, that vulnerability does seem like the biggest thing in the world. So a lot of times it's not done, I think it's done intentionally, but not with malicious intent. Do you agree?
Yeah, I think
it's malicious.
I don't think it's malicious. I think they don't have content.
Yeah. Selling silver bullet products, fear of falling behind competitors. Right? You don't want to be out of the herd, right?
Yeah, because if you're in the herd, you're showing due diligence.
What if the herd's running off?
Supposedly.
What if the herd's running off the fucking cliff?
Well, that's what I always ask. But the answer I always get from my leaderships to date is, what are our competitors doing? I don't care about who the competitor is because no one's my competitor. I'm trying to do it the right way.
Winners focus on winning. Losers focus on winners.
Mm-hmm. We were talking a little bit ago about assets. I'm wondering what your thought is, because we talked a little bit about staying up to date. Today, everything is planned obsolescence. Like you buy a Switch from Cisco. They're only going to support it, I think, 3 to 5 years, and then you can buy like extended or whatever. Do you have to buy the new one after that, or could you stay on the original one, or is there more risk?
Good question, man. I think you could potentially put mitigating controls in place. I think what your biggest risk is probably outdated software and firmware on that equipment.
Outdated from a vulnerability perspective, or like it just dying?
Vulnerability perspective. Yeah, the things that die in equipment are the moving parts, right? Your fans, shit like that. You used to have hard drives. You'd have to, those were, high fail rates. But in today's equipment, it's manufactured tightly enough that your biggest risk would be, new vulnerabilities that were discovered in the firmware that you wouldn't be able to get a patch for, or interoperability with newer systems. New protocols have come out, new communication flows, shit like that you wouldn't be able to support anymore.
So there's really no choice. You have to.
Yeah. But, the responsible thing, it'd be like a car, right? My car's not going to last me forever. So, but you're responsible in the new car that you're, yeah. I think it'd be the same thing with, your equipment that's out of date. Learn the new shit. Learn the new, learn the new Cisco OS, to run that shit. It's the thing. We're in our industry. We are all professionals. I get paid to do what I fucking do.
Mm-hmm.
And so I better be damn good at what I fucking do. If I'm not, why the fuck are you paying me?
Because you can't, because HR. HR overcomplicates things.
But this is the same, I think, like, I'm a professional and I should be held accountable. Like in any other profession, there are things that we're that you're typically held accountable for. I think in our industry, we're still struggling with what things do I hold a cybersecurity or an information security professional accountable for, or an IT professional.
Yeah. Like
so if
you get hit with ransomware, whose fault is that? Is it the IT person's fault?
Yeah.
Or do we just blame the TA?
Yeah. I think it depends. That's like, single factor authentication's always been a peeve of mine on anything externally.
When did multi-factor start? Do you remember when that first started? Were you still at the bank? Or did you have your own company then?
We always had different forms of multi-factor. We even had multi-factor with like modems. In a way, you'd have callbacks, so you'd dial in and then the modem would call you back at the phone number that's configured in the modem for this account. So you dial in, authenticate, and then it would call you back. And so if you didn't have that return on another phone number, so it was a second factor. The first one would be something I know because I'd have to authenticate with the modem, and then it would call me back. So it would be something I have.
It has on file.
And then it would be a device, another modem, a phone number, unless I was able to reroute, phone, you could potentially hack the telco and move the phone number somewhere else. But that's the thing. There's always like attacks to our mitigating. The point is never to be perfect. It's never to eliminate risk, but it's to manage risk. So on highly sensitive systems, when we were dialing into them, we had remote callback configured. It was just the responsible thing to do.
What do you think about hard tokens now and soft tokens? So you have the apps that are soft tokens now. You can have a YubiKey or a hard token with a code. I see all kinds of people talking about this is hackable, that's hackable. Do you have any thought? Like, just anything is good?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, that's where I think we're our own worst enemy, right? Oh, that's hackable. Well, that's the fear thing. Okay, let's talk about how that's hackable. And when you explain it, you're like, okay, the situation and the scenario in which that's going to happen is like, this is likelihood and impact, right? The likelihood of that fucking happening is next to nil. Yes, it could happen, but it's not going to happen. Versus me not putting that control in place at all, the likelihood's much higher. You know what I mean? So it's not risk elimination, it's risk management. Everything's fucking hackable. I don't give a fuck if it's hackable.
So if you already had soft tokens and someone was telling you that's not good enough, you need to buy a physical token, you just tell them that's bullshit, but we're good. We don't need to spend our money on that.
It depends. Explain to me how and why. Maybe you know something I don't know. Maybe you know of a new,
0 day or something where it's more.
Yeah, something I don't
likely.
Understand. But I think that would go a long way towards, fighting the fear thing is, giving you credit when we first started this chat. Like, ask why. Ask for more information. When you get the, guaranteed protection thing, if that isn't already a disqualifier, then ask them how this guaranteed protection works. And if you're guaranteeing it, what recourse do I have when it fails? Can I sue you for it?
Oh, that's always written in the contracts that
so it must not be fucking
as the
guaranteed
customer
then.
Can't hold them liable. Yeah, I just saw that the other day.
Right. So it must not be guaranteed then.
Yeah, because you're using legal to defend yourself right out the gate.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Now, here's some of the dangers. I want to go over some of the dangers of this fear factory. There's lots of examples. I can give you shitloads of them. I can give you reasons. We can tell you why it works, right? But what are some of the dangers? Like, why would I even give a shit about this fear factory? Does it even matter? I mean, so what? I bought a new fucking thing, and it was fear-driven. Big deal. Here's some of the dangers. Number one, misallocation of resources. You have limited resources.
It's going to cost more than you think it does.
Always, man. I've always said I would rather not spend an information security dollar than misspend an information security dollar. Because at least if I'm not spending, I'm not fooling myself into thinking that I'm protecting myself better. Where I'm misspending, I have a false sense of security. That's a really bad situation. Plus, I pissed away the dollars. I mean, let's say I misspent $500,000 on some solution that is completely ineffective, or it's not whatever. Because that's another thing you use in selling fears. We overestimate return on investment. Let's say at the end of the day, it's a net loss because I misspent information security dollars. How does that any different than me paying a $500,000 ransom? It's $500,000. It's gone.
Money's money. Yep.
I can't spend it on other more effective controls. We can't use it to grow our business. We can't use it for the company party. We can't use it for bonuses. You misallocated it. And you're not helping the business. You're making it worse. That's one of the dangers. Another danger, complacency. This false sense of security.
Security through obscurity. You bought the thing. Even if you did buy it and you think it's a good investment, you didn't configure it correctly. You just dropped it in.
Yeah. Well, and you've heard me say this too, man. The number one thing, if I've been asked by CEOs and others hundreds of times, give me the one thing, because people always want the one thing. And the one thing is situational awareness. It always comes down to situational awareness. You understand the situation that you're in. You understand where your threats are coming from. You understand. I mean, think of like when you go to a restaurant, for somebody who's situationally aware would, get a vibe for what's in the restaurant, the type of people that are in the restaurant, where the furniture is. And it's not like you're paranoid. You understand what's going on. Yeah, there's nobody like fighting. There's no screaming, and when you're sitting down, you look, you see where the bathroom is. You see the exits on how I would get out of this place if shit hit the fan. Again, I'm not paranoid. It's a learned thing. Anybody can learn situational awareness, and it's really fucking healthy.
So it's interesting that you use the word healthy. Because when this comes to veterans a lot, we go to therapy or we talk about PTSD, one of the common questions that they ask is, are you always looking for exits or do you notice things? And they kind of give it that stigma that it's not healthy because we are so situationally aware.
I think you can make it unhealthy if you are doing it out of paranoia versus doing it out of just awareness. I just want to know, because I think where it's really healthy is it helps you plan. It helps you live in the moment more. Taking in, I notice things that are like, fuck, that's a beautiful desk. You know, I wouldn't have noticed that beautiful desk had I not been aware of that it was there.
In the moment, you're thinking present.
The more situationally aware I am, the better I enjoy life, to be honest.
I have a cool situational aware story. This year, February, for my birthday, I took a random trip to Atlanta. And apparently I'm not good at writing because everybody thought I was moving to Atlanta, but I'm pretty sure I said trip. But I ended up in Atlanta, and I was at this cigar bar chilling. And all of a sudden, this dude walks in, big fur coat, hat. He's got two girls with him. And the owner comes out the back and greets him. I was like, yep, time for me to get out of here.
Yeah.
Yep, definitely not a place you want to be.
Yeah, and I think if you could marry situational awareness up with context and like wisdom, I've seen a lot of people, I think it's just the more situational you are, where you are, the less likely you are to find yourself in a compromising situation. And when you are in that compromising situation, you have a contingency plan kind of already built in. So, but with this fear-driven stuff, if I have complacency, if I have a false sense of security, you defeated that shit. You think you have an exit, but you don't have an exit.
Or you're not looking at it from the proper context.
You think you've got the front door locked, but there's 4 other doors that you didn't even know were there. Yeah. So that's a big thing. Erosion of trust. The more I sell fear, the more trust I lose.
Do you think that's actually happening, though? Do you think people are losing trust, or do you think they just keep buying more? You said yourself there's a lot of money out there.
Personally, there's the personal thing. Like, I would erode more trust if I kept overselling fear. I think there's enough money and enough marketing power and enough bullshit that, people still trust, unless you are critically thinking. Unless you run into somebody like me or somebody like you, I don't trust CrowdStrike. I think, they've got fantastic fucking tools. I'm not saying that their technology isn't awesome. I don't trust them. I also don't trust Arc. They might have great shit too. I don't know. I don't trust them, based on a lot of this. But why do other people trust them? I think ignorance. I think they don't think critically. They do operate out of fear. They don't know any better, probably. What do you think?
I think they could have a different experience that gives them different context. Now, that also doesn't, invalidate your perception. It's crazy. 2 people can have a different opinion about something and not want to, kill each other, apparently.
Right. But if somebody's using fear to take advantage of somebody else, we may see it different, but would it not erode trust in both of, wouldn't both of us lose trust in that organization?
Yes, definitely lose trust. Sometimes you can't just change something.
No. Yeah, I get that. Well, and maybe I think they're taking advantage of somebody and you don't.
Yeah, that too.
There's that
perspective.
Yeah. Another, I think, danger or risk to, fear-based, the fear factory is neglect of the foundational stuff.
Well, not.
And it doesn't matter how many fucking products you buy. You're never going, it's like, if it's rotten to the core, it's always going to be rotten. You just keep putting more Band-Aids and more Band-Aids and more Band-Aids. It's still
hoping
unhealthy.
Someone else is going to come along and fix it.
Yeah. Wasted budgets, opportunity costs, burnout. You do get burned out when you buy into the fear. You may not notice it, but over
creeps
time,
up on you. It's crazy.
Yeah, over time, it's like, you're tired of being fucking scared. Why the fuck am I doing this job anymore? I'm going to be a pool attendant or something. I don't know what the fuck. Sell margaritas on the beach.
It's pretty funny. 4 years ago, I was emailing my manager, or chatting every day, dude, this vulnerability, this article. And now I had, this year, I started having people work for me and they're doing the same thing to me. I'm just shut the fuck up. I don't care.
Yeah.
Okay. It's cool. Read it, like learn about it now. It's like tell me something about it. Don't just like send me shit.
Yeah, totally get it. Reinforcement of reactive culture. We have a reactive culture.
Mm-hmm.
Who continue to drive the
kills
fear-based
me.
stuff.
Kills
It's
me
always
to
reactive.
the core.
The only way you're ever going to be proactive is to use logic. Fear will never get you there. Fear will always be reactive.
Mm-hmm. Fear of missing out, fear of breaking something. That's probably the biggest one. Or fear of looking dumb or not. Yeah, those probably the two biggest ones.
Yeah. Whereas the proactive approach is I do it because it's the right way to fucking do it.
And like, no one really cares if you don't know. Just ask.
Yeah.
Like, if I can help you, I'll help you. I'll do research for you. I'll find stuff. I'll help you code, like whatever. Just ask.
Yeah. And maybe we could go learn together.
Yeah. We do like
That'd
a
be fun.
side-by-side session. And
Sure, man. Increased complexity. So you do this fear-based thing, you just keep increasing complexity. And I can't tell you enough times, complexity is the worst enemy.
How many companies have you walked into where they had data flow diagrams?
At the beginning, none.
So how are you supposed to protect your data if you don't know how your data moves?
Yeah. And there's been many organizations where we built them before.
How long does that take?
Well, you need to have, you can't just go, the shortcut way would be to go at it right after the data, just data flow diagramming.
Yeah, give me.
Right. But you have to start with asset inventory.
This is my cat, by the way. I don't know if you've ever seen her before. It's not a dog, I know, but
yeah. Someday. But you can't go right into a data flow. You have to figure out your assets. Because you have to be able to understand which of these data flows is a legitimate data flow from point A to point B to X to Y, all these data flows.
What's the critical data? What are the dependencies?
Yep. And you also have to implement some level of change control, because as soon as otherwise you continue to chase your tail on the data flow. You never get to a state. But you could potentially do that if you were going to implement a continuous data flow. But that's going to take a lot of work. You have to kind of do it manually first before you're going to be able to do it. Before you're going to be able to automate it. You don't want to take shortcuts, which I've never. It was kind of the Marine Corps way when I was growing up, because it was drilled into me. I don't know how many times my father, if you're going to do it right.
It's the craziest thing.
Especially if you're getting paid for it.
Yeah. One of my first, I want to say, master sergeants I had, he said, there's only two things I ask of you: professionalism and accountability. You do what's right because it's right, and that's it. There's like no other way. It's the right way or not. And then you're accountable to and for everybody. And those things do not fit in corporate America. They should, but they don't. And I think that's why I go crazy.
Yeah. That's why we need each other, man. Keep each other from going crazy.
Yep.
Other risks, undermining security culture, right? We continue to undermine ourselves. Why do people think that, we're always so negative? Because you're always fucking negative.
Yeah, they don't want to work with you because you're just, you're going to get hacked or fix this vulnerability. You're never building a relationship with them.
Right. It was funny. I was on a podcast earlier this week, and it was...
Was it Astra?
Yeah. And it was the don't click on shit. I'm like, what does that mean? Because truly, you can't have somebody not click on shit.
You have to run an application. You have to do an email.
Yeah. We all have to click on shit. So what do we actually mean when we say don't click on shit? I think what we mean is actually, understand what's shit and don't click on that. You know what I mean? So it doesn't mean don't click on any shit or anything. It just means figure out what the shit is and don't click on that, Yeah. Exacerbating inequities, I guess, is another one that I found. A market saturation with ineffective products, dilution of public awareness.
Do you seen those recent, I don't know, whoever makes these images of like all the vendors and products and shit?
God.
It looks like a fucking Where's Waldo thing. Like, it's ridiculous.
I know. And they've asked they've asked us.
You want to put FR Secure in here?
Like,
pay us $20,000 to be put in this list?
Thank you. We don't want to be on that list. Not at all. But, so the truth of the matter is, man, I think fear is rampant. It's not just in our industry. It's in life, man. It's all over the fucking place. You read the news every day, or if you do read the news every day.
The news isn't news. It's all just
It's a bunch of shit. Yep.
Don't go outside because you're going to get shot. Don't drive a car because someone's going to run you over. Like, it might not. I would say they don't want it to be intentional, but holy shit, it's got to be at this point.
Well, dude, it sells. I mean, it sells. Nobody's going to come click on your website to go read your news article if it's like,
we found a basket of puppies.
Yeah, today things are pretty good. Enjoy your day. It's crazy how many people think, like Mexico, when they hear you live here, they're like, oh, is it safe?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's pretty fucking safe. But, there's shootings and shit all the time. I'm like, not here.
There's shootings in LA and New York, fucking Chicago, Milwaukee.
Well, I mean, it's like, it's the fear. So the fear, that's another thing too. I think when you let fear drive things, you won't make decisions that are actually healthy. Like, you wouldn't travel to Mexico or see other parts of the world because you're afraid to do it. And so you miss out. You miss out on other cultures, and what actually ends up happening is these other cultures, these other perspectives, they make you a better person. They make you smarter. They make you appreciate things more. You saw the same thing with COVID. How many people were afraid to, like, I got so much shit when I went to Sturgis twice. And
because people were giving you crap for going.
Yeah, that's a super spreader. I'm like, what the fuck is a super spreader? They're like, well, you're going to get everybody sick. I'm like, not if I come home and stay in my house for a couple of weeks afterwards. Well, it's so irresponsible. I'm like, how is that fucking irresponsible? What it really comes down to is you're jealous that I went and you were too afraid to. You let fear drive the logic. Like, I would say, like, I'd rather die of COVID doing things that I love than die of a heart attack on my couch, So, yeah, I'm going out. I'm going to do shit. The same kind of thing, like in your career. That's one of the things I've really appreciated about you is you're getting out there more. You're taking more risks. And you're not letting fear keep you from doing it. Stick to that thing, in my opinion, stick to that thing that you learned in the Marine Corps. Like, do shit right.
Seems to be working.
It is working, man. All right, what else you got? You got anything else about fear that you want to talk about?
I wasn't as diligent as you. I didn't really make note.
Well, I'm like the host and shit. I'm supposed to do this.
Yeah, I mean, my big thing
I should have you come on more often. You should be my sidekick. You want to be my sidekick?
I'm totally down for that.
'Cause you're fun. I like your way you talk.
I've heard that before. It kind of confuses me because I've had different experiences with that throughout my life. And maybe it's just a sign that I'm changing, which is what we're going for, which is cool.
Yep.
My biggest thing about fear is really social media and really a lot around the vulnerability stuff. The marketing is like a whole nother thing, but vulnerabilities, I think that bothers me more because I feel like that impacts the people joining the industry. Like the fear marketing stuff, that's hitting me, us seasons people, whatever. We have to learn how to deal with that. But the entry people, the ones that we want to grow and take the ball after us, are learning that vulnerability, fear stuff before they're even like in school because they're following whoever, right? And that bothers me, I think. No, I don't think I know.
Yeah. So the people so we're teaching people before they even get into this industry to consume the fear and make those decisions. So they're kind of coming into the industry already making fear-based decisions.
And or they just want to come in and break shit. I want to hack stuff. Can I do pen testing? Like, I have no use for that. I need you to fix stuff.
Well,
I need you to talk to people.
Right. Well, for us, if you want to do pen testing, it's going to take you a long time. You really have to understand the basics, the fundamentals. You have to understand what's going to be happening. You have to understand context. I mean, it's not like, oh, here's Metasploit, have fun.
Here's your hack the box of EM.
Which is actually, if we're going to be doing pen tests, right, it's going to be a customer's hack the box, and there's too many people, I think, in this industry. I've talked to so many people that, I've always thought about, that seems like a really interesting industry. Like, well, have you thought about getting into this industry? And they're like, oh, no, I'm not technical enough. I'm like, we don't need any more fucking technical people.
We have too many.
We need like people, like brain people. You got a brain? Yes. Can you think critically? Yes. Can you, like, when's the last time you bounced a check and you do a personal budget? Yes. Well, then you're fucking hired. Shit, we'll teach you all the rest of the stuff. It's like, yeah, I get that. Well, but the thing is, but they come out of, the good thing, I guess, is those people are really struggling finding jobs.
I was just having that conversation today. Like, you see all these people, they're, whatever they are, followers talking about vulnerability, this, that, but they're the ones that are always looking for jobs, or they're getting a new job every 6 months because all they're doing is contracting to do like one engagement. Like, if that's what you want to do, that's cool, man. But I'm trying to make a difference and fix stuff.
Yeah. But like you said, maybe also taking some of those people under your wings, and doing some mentoring, showing them the way that, I mean, there's nothing wrong with pen testing. There's nothing wrong with hacking. No. Those are all things that we do when we need to do them in the proper context. It's not where you start. You never start with pen testing. It's a stupid place to start.
You start with IT fundamentals. If you don't know how to open a command prompt, if you don't know how to, use File Explorer, like, man, I mean, basic computer skills.
I start by taking a fucking shower.
I don't do that every day, but it's probably a good idea.
You should do that every day.
I think I did today. I went into the office today, so I think, did I go? Today is Thursday? I did go in the office today.
Thursday.
Yeah.
Well, awesome talk, brother. It's good to see your face. I always enjoy these discussions because you're also one of the things that with me that you haven't been afraid in the past to challenge me. And I appreciate that. You do so. I think we challenge each other mostly with respect, unless we're talking about the Packers.
Yes. Hey, we should figure out how to watch that game together in 2 weeks.
Watch the game together?
We play the Vikings. They're probably going to move it. It's probably going to be the Fox primetime game, 3:30. I'm guessing.
Hey, the angry intern just gave me a kudos. So
go
my
Pack,
ego
go chat. Is that what he said?
No, fuck. She didn't say anything about hackers. But now my ego is like this big, so I'm going to go tell my wife that I'm really important. That's not going to work. I'm fucked still.
Oh, yeah, she sees through that. Marlis is cool shit.
She is super cool shit. All right, we're gonna do this again, man. I think there's a good flow to you and I talking about shit.
I like to ask questions. I mean, you gotta listen to people, and when we have the OGs out there on the circuits, yourself saying ask more questions, kind of makes sense, I think.
Ask more questions and challenge us. If anybody, who's been in this industry for a long time and is in this game for the right reasons, right? We should all open ourselves up to challenge, because in that challenge, you'll also get some of the wisdom out of us. There's nothing special about wisdom, by the way. Wisdom just comes from experience, and usually it's painful experience, and you get to share that with people, right? But it takes people, to ask questions, to not feel intimidated to ask those questions, to not feel intimidated to disagree, to not feel intimidated to, ask to prove us wrong. I mean, shit, you're definitely going to find places where you can prove me wrong because I thought it was this way, but, it turns out I was wrong. Just because you've been in this industry for like 30 years doesn't mean you're fucking right.
Yeah, I'm starting to see that in some people that are in the local circle. I found what I was looking for before. It's under your call to action. Fix the issue. Don't fear the problem. Don't be scared to break shit. I mean, I think I asked you this question a couple of weeks ago. Like, people are scared to do something because they think it's going to break. Well, it's a good opportunity to learn how it works.
Yeah, it's trial by fire. It's definitely not comfortable. But whatever you learn in that situation, you're not going to forget.
I think.
Wasn't that something you were texting? You were going through something. You broke something at work, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I broke something.
You texted me and I was like, awesome. And you're like, what do you fucking mean awesome? I'm like, you get to learn something now.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. We actually were able to learn something and fix it. So that was pretty cool. But there was a couple upset people. But I don't care because I think people are scared about breaking things because they're just trying to do stuff. If you have logic behind what you're doing and why you're trying to do it, you can back your stuff up. Okay, I was trying to do this. It broke. Okay. We're trying to make it more secure. Okay, well, no one's going to come at you then. Or you should have a good manager that's going to, defend you and not let you take that heat if there is heat.
And you'll learn ways to craft messages without lying. But there's so much art to the way you communicate shit. I've been in enough incident responses over the years to know the importance of getting ahead of the narrative. So, like, instead of focusing on the fact that you broke shit, how about we focus on the fact that you fixed it? You're a fucking expert. You fixed it. Yeah, I fucked up, but rather than us, suffering these long consequences or whatever, I mean, look for the positive thing that will also build up trust and credibility with yourself. There's a huge amount of power in transparency. I always believe that the more transparent you are with people, you disarm them from using things against you.
They're natural, like, deflections of it takes time or it's hard or whatever their normal excuses are.
Yeah. So I love watching. It's like your kids, man. Raising kids, I enjoyed watching them fail from time to time.
I think it'd be more like a brother, not a dad, but that's...
No, I was a dad. Seriously, ask him. There was certain shit
I know you are, but
brothers wouldn't do.
More of
Oh, yeah. But like when you watch your kids, like especially the boys, I think, because I can't relate to girls. I wasn't one of those. But when your boys were in sports and, my son played offensive line, and when he got his ass kicked, it was, part of me was like, good. The boys got to learn how to be tough. You know what I mean? And the same thing with this industry. I mean, make some mistakes. Find yourself in uncomfortable situations. Comfort is an idol. If you're comfortable consistently, you're not growing. So, don't intentionally go break some shit, but go out there and push yourself.
Yeah, you don't want to
push yourself. Yeah, but push yourself into doing things that you have never done before, with the risk that you might break something, and then fix it.
Figure it out from there.
There's been so many times I've broken so much shit, dude.
There's no perfect path, and there's no perfect environment or situation set up for you to learn. That's not how this works. Live fire is the way to go.
Maybe we should do an episode about that. We'll do an episode of classic mistakes or mistakes that I've made in the past, because there are some that are like, you'd be like, I think unless you've been in some of those similar mistakes or similar situations, you'd be like, holy fuck.
I have a good one about trust and accountability that is not IT, military.
Military.
Trust and credibility like wraps up with the whole thing, right?
Yeah, let's explore having you on more often, man, because I do enjoy these conversations. You and I have built such a rapport over the years, and I think we bring a lot of good stuff out of each other.
I think so, too. Enjoy your company.
Stop being a fucking Packers fan.
I'm going to I was supposed to get the tattoo finished, but he said it wasn't healed enough, so beginning of the year, I'll get it finished. And then I got an idea for a third one, so thank you for sending me down this rabbit hole with your invitation.
Oh, the tattoo rabbit hole? Yeah, when we met, you didn't have any tattoos. I was like, why don't you have any tattoos? Well, I've always thought about one. I'll just fucking get one then.
I think things
I
are
got
starting.
tattoos all over the place.
Things are starting to get more clear up here instead of analysis paralysis. So we're just rolling with it.
Yeah, man. The better you just be yourself, live yourself, the more you get comfortable with yourself, man, it's a freeing experience. It helps in everything. It helps in your job. It helps in your relationships. Helps fucking everywhere. So I love seeing that. All right, that's it. Let's wrap up the show. Let's figure out when we're gonna do this again.
All right. Appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I just ended the
thing.